Yes, welcome back to the Sports Show. Of course, Brett, there's lots of different sports that go on around South Australia, around the world. This one you might find very interesting, lawnmower racing. So we thought we'd better find out how this eventuates. So let's go to the Vice President. Benny Reusch joins us. Benny, how are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks, Phil. Yourself?
We're really well, mate. Kind of excited to talk about this because it's not one that floats across the table. I mean, maybe AFL and swimming, of course, the big sports, mate, they get a lot, but lawnmower, mate, tell us a little bit about it.
So SALMRA, South Australian Lawnmower Racing Association, we formed 4 years ago. Just a couple of blokes over a couple of beers, and it all started in the backyard of my hotel, and we've grown from there.
Mate, we're talking about the Meningie Hotel, of course, so obviously the lawns there, mate, are manicured magnificently there. But, mate, when you say you're sitting there having a couple of beers, someone must have had the initial idea. I want to try and find out where that came from.
My backyard of my hotel is rather large, and we were just YouTubing stuff, and I'm a bit of a petrol head, and come across it and went, we can have a crack at this.
And that was that simple?
It was that simple.
And for anyone who, I guess, hasn't seen lawnmower racing before, how are your competitions structured, and does it get pretty physical out on the course?
So the lawnmower racing, it's anywhere from your absolute stock standard lawnmowers up to a 450cc motorbike engine. And yeah, the boys do take it pretty serious.
So I imagine the blades are taken off, and just before we came on air I was asking about the speeds, and you said you can get up to 79 kilometres now, so there's got to be some. Do you have to have a driver's licence? So it's not like you have a lawnmower's licence. So what's the age gap to what you need to be able to do it? So
any juniors from 8 upwards can start on a standard lawnmower. Then once they turn 12, they can go up to a 150cc motorbike engine. In the adult classes, it's anywhere from your standard lawnmower, standard modified, up to a 200cc, up to a 250cc, and then the A class, which is 450cc.
I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I had the ride-on lawnmower around my place in Canberra only because of the bush outside. I didn't have a big lawn. I don't want to get the wrong idea for it. And I thought that was pretty good, just chunking around about 10 or 15, mate. So you're a rev head. How much time would you spend hotting up the mower?
So the big 450cc mowers can take, my last one took just on 12 months to build.
Wow. Is it expensive? You know, in most sports there's an expense to play. Would you equate it even with, say, well, swimming's expensive, but basketball's expensive?
As far as a motorsport goes, it is one of the cheapest motorsports. So your standard modified class, you can be racing for under $300, where compared to a go-kart type class, we run a really hard compound tyre, so our tyres can last us up to 8 years.
Wow.
So an $80 tyre can last you 8 years, where in a go-kart class, you're probably doing 2 sets of rears at $80 a race meet.
And you've got 44 current members. You also take race day rock-ups, which
Yep.
I find very intriguing. But tell us a little bit about your community and what your members mean to you.
So our biggest race in South Australia was at Meningie this June long weekend, and that was 57 competitors. 2 years ago, pre-COVID, we had competitors from New South Wales, Victoria, Queensland and Western Australia all come to South Australia to race. In the pits, the first one to break down, your mower's just a donor. You help everyone out. It's like a big family in the pits. If someone's mower's broken down, everybody is in there trying to get that mower up and going for the next race. Yeah, it's a great community amongst the mower people.
Oh, good. You send them around to my place, mate, because the mower regularly breaks down. Hey, listen, I'm interested because we've had a lot of guests in from COVID and some, well, ice hockey we mentioned before, they couldn't compete the last 2 years, but you guys, mate, you've been in Mount Mary, Canalpin, Cape Jervis, and Brinkworth.
Brinkworth.
And you've still got one to go at Millicent. How have you been able to navigate the COVID?
There's been a couple of races where we haven't had a crowd. The rest of them have just happened to fall in while COVID's been in a lull. Battle at Brinkworth's town of probably 70 people, and there was over 500 people there. The battle at Brinkworth was all for the Brinkworth Township, and they raised over $5,500, which went back to local charities.
So that's the other part that intrigued me when I was reading the stuff that you said. A lot of the money that you generate, instead of, a lot of sports churn it back into the sport, you've been able to give a nice amount out to some of the charities.
Yeah, so the Cape Jervis race, that all goes to the KI Fires. The Meningie race, that all goes back to local charities. Every year at Meningie, we've managed to give $6,000 back to local charities. The Battle of Brinkworth, they're building a new playground in Brinkworth, the township itself. So yeah, a lot of the races do go back to helping out local charities, which is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And would you say there's a training regime that you follow, or is sort of just your weekend, mow your own lawn and then kind of transfers over to your comp days?
A lot of the boys do practice, but yeah, some of us it's just the weekend, get out and have a crack.
The course itself, how long does it take to set the course up?
So the courses are all different around the state, Canalpin being the biggest, which is 500 metres. Cape Jervis and Menindee are both about the 240 metres, just because of their location in the centre of town. So the tracks have to be 8 metres wide, just for a safety aspect.
So the boys at Tailem Bend haven't asked you to come in for the race day yet at the Tailem Bend racecourse, mate?
We have been in talk with the Bend.
Yep.
Watch this space.
I can see them out there with the Mustangs and the Porsches. And hey, do you ever have the race where it's just a straight race, just A to B?
No, we haven't had a straight race yet. Probably our straightest race would be the Adelaide Show. We've been along to the Adelaide Show the last couple of years and on the main arena.
How many times have you come off? Okay.
A few.
Yeah. What are some of the more serious injuries you've seen in the sport?
In South Australia, we've been pretty lucky. We haven't actually had too many major injuries in South Australia. I did have a big off in Western Australia, which might have done 8 ribs and popped a lung, but
Wow.
it was pretty good besides that.
Yes, the famous one is that lucky you didn't hurt yourself. Hey, mate, it's obviously going to keep growing. You know, it's one of those ones where we hear about it and you go, I'd actually like to go and watch it. Actually, I wouldn't mind having a
crack.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having a crack. I don't know if I want to go at 79, but I wouldn't mind a crack.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a picture of it in my head. You know, when you see a lot of the accidents in motor racing, it's you know, you're lower to the ground. Do you reckon that negates some of the risk of you know, rollovers and things like that?
Yeah, definitely. The bigger ones, like our motorbike engines, they're all lower to the ground, where the standard modifieds, they're still at a standard height, so they do get a bit tippy. That's probably our biggest class and probably our most entertaining to watch, because all the mowers are basically even speed. And the age bracket of those races is anywhere from 16 to our oldest racer who's just started racing, Peter Vanderbrink, at 74, taking up a racing career.
What's the youngest competitor that you've had out there on a mower?
Probably our youngest one would be young Charlie Hempel, and his parents are right in behind him and he absolutely loves it.
How old's Charlie?
So there's a couple of 8-year-olds.
8,
yeah,
wow.
So young Charlie and then young Samson from Menindee. And on the track, they're racers. Off the track, they're best buds running around having a great time.
I mean, you know, when you set this up at the start, it's like you say, a few beers in the pub, someone's got an idea, and then you get down to we're racing and we're going. Now there's sponsors that come involved. Got a couple of sponsors that are involved in it?
So Fluoro Milk's just come on board. They're our major sponsor, which is fantastic to have a local SA on board. And then from there on, Menindee has been great support, A2N F Hill Transport, and the president, Matt Rowlands, has done amazing things behind the scenes just to keep it going.
So, I mean, obviously, if you're up at the Menindee Hotel, so people should drop in there if they're ever passing through and get a beer with Benny and hear about the racing. Mate, the hotels themselves, they're pretty strong supporters. So if you're up at Cape Jervis, the hotel up there, they get behind it pretty well?
Yeah, so we try to go to the smaller sized towns just to put money back into those small communities. Like Cape Jervis, there was no accommodation left in Cape Jervis the night we raced there. So you're booking out the caravan park, you're booking out the hotel. I think the hotel did 230 meals. So the flow-on effect just back into those little communities is sensational.
Fantastic. Hey, Benny, really appreciate your time, mate. I know you've got to drive back to Menindee now, mate. Hopefully you're in the car, not on the lawnmower, mate, so it might take a little bit longer. We need to get down and have a look, get on the internet, find out where they're racing, lawnmower racing. It'll be exciting to watch. Benny Reusch was our special guest. Back in a moment.